There are moments in life that don't announce themselves. They don't arrive with dramatic music or flashing signs. They come quietly in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday, while you're heating soup on a stranger's stove, or adjusting a pillow behind someone's back, or watching a man try very hard not to cry because he hates needing help. That's how it happened for Eli. He wasn't looking for love. He was looking for rent money. And Noah wasn't looking for a caretaker. He was looking for independence. The very thing his broken body had temporarily stolen from him. Neither of them was ready for what happened next. But then again, nobody ever is. The listing on the community board at Westside Community College had been handwritten, which was the first unusual thing about it. Most postings were typed, printed on white paper, pinned with a red thumbtack. This one was written in blue ink, slightly uneven, like the person had been sitting at an awkward angle when they wrote it, seeking part-time and home care assistant. Must be reliable, non-intrusive, and comfortable with silence. Medical knowledge not required. Common sense is. Compensation, $18 hour. Flexible hours. Private room available if needed. Call Noah. No texts. Please. Eli Vasquez read it 3 times. He was 26 years old. 3 months behind on rent, and the holder of a half-finished degree in social work that he'd paused when his mother got sick. He had no medical training. He did have common sense, or so he believed, and he was deeply, urgently comfortable with silence. Having grown up in a house where silence was often safer than sound, he called the number. The voice that answered was low, careful, and not particularly warm. Noah Callahan. Hi, I'm calling about the care assistant position. From the flyer at Westside. A pause. How old are you? Eli blinked. 26. Any experience? I cared for my mother for 2 years. She had MS. Another pause, longer this time. Can you start Monday? That was how Eli Vasquez came to stand at the door of apartment 4B on Hargrove Street, holding a canvas tote bag and his own nervousness. At 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, the man who opened the door was not what Eli had expected. He wasn't sure what he had expected exactly. Someone older, maybe. Someone soft around the edges. Someone who looked like they needed help. Instead, Noah Callahan looked like someone who had recently been magnificent and was furious about no longer being so. He was 32, tall, even leaning on a single forearm crutch, with dark hair that curled just slightly at his temples like it hadn't fully decided what shape to take. His jaw was set. His eyes dark green, almost the color of deep river water, moved over Eli with a quick, assessing intelligence that felt uncomfortably like being read. He was wearing a gray t-shirt and black athletic shorts, and his right leg from the knee down was encased in a medical boot. The left side of his face had a fading bruise along the cheekbone, soft yellow-green now, the kind that came at the end of a long healing. You're Eli, he said. Not a question. Yes. And you're Noah.
Come in.
Don't rearrange anything, was Eli reflected, the least welcoming welcome he had ever received. He stepped inside anyway. The apartment was clean and carefully organized in the way that someone who had recently lost physical freedom organizes their space. Everything within reach. Nothing on high shelves. A path cleared between all the essential points. Kitchen, bathroom, desk, couch. The walls held 3 framed photographs. A mountain range, a river in autumn, and what looked like a team photo of cyclists in racing gear. Cycling, Eli said. Nodding at the photo, Noah said, from behind him. The single word landed like a stone dropped into still water. Eli turned. I'm sorry. Don't be. You didn't hit me with a car. He moved to the kitchen with practiced efficiency, the crutch barely slowing him. Coffee's made. Help yourself. I need you to understand something before we begin. Eli set his bag down. Okay. Noah turned to face him, leaning against the counter. He crossed his arms over his chest, a posture Eli recognized immediately. His mother had done it too in the early months. The armor of someone who needs help and hasn't forgiven themselves for it yet. I don't want to be managed, Noah said. I don't want sympathy, and I don't want anyone treating me like I'm fragile. I had a serious accident 4 months ago. I have another 3 to 4 months of recovery. I need someone who can drive me to appointments, help with things I can't reach, prepare some meals, and stay out of my way the rest of the time. Understood, Eli said. You're not here to fix me. I know. And you're not here to be my friend. Eli held his gaze. What am I here to be then? Noah seemed momentarily caught off guard by the question, like he'd expected argument or agreement, not curiosity. He looked away first. Useful, he said. Just be useful. The first 2 weeks were professional to the point of being sterile. Eli drove Noah to physical therapy on Tuesdays and he prepared meals, simple ones, things Noah specified from a handwritten list on the fridge. He did laundry, ran errands, stocked the kitchen, and repaired a curtain rod that had been leaning at a dangerous angle over the bedroom. Noah thanked him for each task with a brief good or thanks and returned to his desk, where he worked remotely as a structural engineer for a firm that, based on the building blueprints Eli occasionally glimpsed design bridges. It was fitting, Eli thought sometimes. A man who built things that helped other things connect. Living in deliberate disconnection, they did not have personal conversations. They did not discuss the accident. Noah did not ask about Eli's mother, or his paused degree, or why a 26-year-old with obvious intelligence and warmth was spending his days as a caretaker rather than out building his own life. Eli, for his part, did not push. He had learned. Caring for his mother, the most important thing you could offer someone in recovery, wasn't information or cheerfulness or distraction. It was patience that didn't feel like waiting, presence that didn't feel like pressure, so he showed up, did his work, left space. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, Noah began to fill it. It started with small things. One evening in the 3rd week, Eli was washing dishes after dinner when he heard Noah say from the couch, "You put cumin in the lentil soup." Eli glanced over his shoulder. "Is that okay?" "It's how my grandmother made it." Pause. "I didn't expect it. I looked up traditional Lebanese recipes. You have a lot of spices in the cabinet that weren't being used." Noah was quiet for a moment. "She was Lebanese." "My grandmother." Eli nodded, turning back to the dishes. He didn't say anything else. He didn't have to. That sentence, "she was Lebanese." My grandmother was not information. It was an opening. Barely cracked the light from it, thin and tentative. He left it open the next day. Noah told him, unprompted, that the mountain range in the photograph on the wall was in Lebanon, that his grandmother had hiked it when she was young, that he had always meant to go, that the accident had. He stopped himself. "Sorry," he said. "You don't need to hear this." "I don't mind hearing it," Eli said. Simply, Noah looked at him for a moment with an expression Eli couldn't quite name. Then he turned back to his laptop and said nothing more. But the following morning, when Eli arrived, there was a second coffee mug already poured on the counter. He picked it up without comment, sat at the kitchen table. Noah sat across from him with his own mug, a bridge schematic open on his laptop between them. And they drank their coffee in the particular quiet of two people who were beginning slowly, carefully, like learning a new language, to simply be in the same room. The shift happened on a Thursday. Eli had arrived at 7 to drive Noah to physical therapy. But Noah was still in the bathroom when he got there and when he came out. His face was pale and set in the rigid way Eli had come to recognize as Noah fighting something he didn't want witnessed. Before Eli could speak, "Okay, just the boot needs to be tightened, and I can't." He stopped. His jaw worked. "I can't get the angle right." On my own, Eli crossed the room without hesitation. He crouched down in front of Noah, who had lowered himself to the edge of the couch, and gently took his foot into his hands. The medical boot had a set of laces and 2 Velcro straps, and the inner support needed to sit flush against the ankle before the outer shell was secured. Eli had done this before for his mother. His hands knew the motion. He worked carefully and quietly, and the room was very still. He didn't look up until he was done. When he did, Noah was watching him with an expression that had nothing to do with the boot. Something had dropped away from his face, the armor, or part of it, and underneath was something younger and more tired and more real. "Thank you," Noah said. It came out different than his usual thanks, softer, less like a transaction. Eli held his gaze for one beat too long. "Ready?" he said. "Yeah," Noah said quietly. "Yeah, I'm ready." But something, in the silence between those two sentences, had already changed. April arrived with rain and the smell of wet concrete. And something in the apartment on Hargrove Street seemed to shift with the season. It wasn't dramatic. There was no single conversation that drew a clear line between before and after. It was more like a tide, advancing incrementally, retreating slightly, then advancing again further than before, until one morning Eli realized the high water. Mark had moved considerably from where it had been. Noah talked now. Not constantly, not easily, but he talked. He told Eli about the accident in pieces, not all at once, but in fragments surfaced at odd moments, like objects recovered from water. A cyclist had cut into his lane on a training ride. The impact had been significant. 3 fractured bones, a dislocated shoulder, a serious concussion that had kept him in the hospital for 11 days. "The shoulder's fine now," he said one evening, almost casually, while they were watching a cycling documentary that Eli had found and put on without comment. A quiet gift wrapped in plausible deniability. "The leg is taking longer. The doctors are optimistic." "I'm trying to be. Trying is enough," Eli said. Noah looked at him sideways. "That's very social worker of you." "I never finished the degree." "Why not?" Eli was quiet for a moment. "My mother needed me. And then she passed 14 months ago. And after that, He let the sentence trail. "I couldn't find the thread back." Noah was quiet for a long beat. Then, softly, "I'm sorry about your mother. Thank you." "Was she like you?" Eli turned to look at him. "What do you mean, like me?" "Calm, the way you are. Unflappable." Pause. "Kind in a way that doesn't ask for anything back." Eli felt something warm move through his chest, something he would have preferred not to feel in this particular direction. He managed a small smile. "She was kinder than me. Braver, too." "I don't know about that," Noah said, looking back at the screen. They didn't speak again for the rest of the documentary. But when it ended, Noah didn't reach for his laptop or his book. He sat in the pale lamplight, and Eli sat beside him. And neither of them made a move to end the evening. It was, Eli would think later, one of the nicest nights he'd had in a year. The trouble with proximity and care is that they are intimate by nature. You cannot spend your days in the quiet. It's the life of someone, their morning coffee, their small frustrations, their particular way of exhaling when something is harder than they expected, without beginning to know them. And you cannot know someone, truly know them, without something beginning to grow. Eli knew, by week 5, that he was in trouble. He knew it in the way his chest tightened whenever Noah laughed, a real laugh, which was rare and always caught him off guard, low and quick and slightly surprised. Like Noah himself, hadn't expected to find something funny. He knew it in the way he found himself learning Noah's preferences, not because they were listed anywhere, but because he had been paying attention with more than professional interest. He knew it when he stayed an extra hour one evening, not because there was more work to do, but because leaving felt like a small, unnecessary loss. He said nothing. Of course, he said nothing. This was Noah's home, and Noah's recovery, and Noah's life. And Eli's job was to be useful. The man had said so himself on the first morning. You did not complicate a person's recovery by developing feelings for them while they were at their most vulnerable. That was not care. That was the opposite of care. So Eli kept his face professional and his voice steady, and he showed up every morning and did his job. And then, on a Friday afternoon, in the 5th week, Noah showed him the bridge. It started with Eli, walking past the desk and pausing as he sometimes did at the blueprints spread across the surface. "This one's bigger than the others," he said. Noah swiveled in his chair. "Pedestrian bridge. Mixed use. Designed to cross a river gorge in a county park 2 hours north of here." He paused. Do you want to see it properly? Eli looked up. What? Sit down. I'll explain it. He didn't know why, but the offer felt significant. He pulled a chair to the desk. For the next 40 minutes, Noah walked him through the design, the tension cables, the anchor points, the grade of the walking surface. The way the arc had been calculated to allow for seasonal expansion and contraction of the metal, the small architectural detail at each end that referenced the landscape on either side of the gorge. That's beautiful, Eli said, pointing at a detail near one anchor tower. A carved stone motif, stylized but clearly organic, like the roots of a tree. It's structural, technically, Noah said, but yes. I wanted it to feel like it belonged there, like it grew there. Bridges shouldn't look imposed. They should look like they were always going to be. I looked at him. Noah seemed to catch himself, the unguarded sincerity of what he'd just said, and looked back at the blueprint.
Sorry, I don't usually.
Don't apologize, Eli said quietly. A silence settled between them, the particular kind that has weight to it, the kind that means something is being held back. And both people can feel the shape of it without knowing which of them is holding it. Noah turned his head slowly. He looked at Eli for a long moment, really looked, the way he hadn't quite done before, direct and undefended. Can I ask you something personal? He said. Yes. Are you? He stopped. Adjusted. This is going to sound strange. I can handle strange. A corner of Noah's mouth moved almost a smile. Are you happy? Doing this? Being here? Eli considered the question honestly. More than I expected to be, he said. Noah held his gaze. Me too, he said. More than I expected. The space between them felt suddenly narrower, or perhaps fuller, like something invisible had moved into it. Something warm and unnamed and patient. Eli stood. I should get going, he said. Yeah, Noah said. Same time Monday? Same time Monday. But at the door, Noah called his name. Eli turned. You don't have to stay in the spare room anymore, Noah said. You never have to sleep here if you don't want to. I'm managing fine at night. But if you did want to, for the commute or whatever, the room is yours? Eli looked at him steadily. Okay, he said. Thank you, Noah. He left. He sat in his car for 4 minutes before starting the engine. Oh no, he thought. Oh, this is a problem. He moved into the spare room on Wednesday. He told himself it was practical. The drive was 40 minutes each way. Gas was expensive. Spare room was small but comfortable and came with no additional cost. These were true things. They were not the only things. Living in the same space as someone is different from visiting. There is an intimacy to shared evenings and shared mornings that daylight professionalism cannot entirely neutralize. You see each other before the armor is on. You hear the quiet sounds of another life, the turn of a page, the hiss of a kettle, a long exhale in the dark. Noah knocked on his door the first morning at 6:45. Coffee's on, he said through the door. Thank you, Eli said. He lay there for a moment in the thin morning dark, listening to the sounds of Noah in the kitchen, and felt with a clarity that was almost painful how much he did not want to do anything to ruin this. The night things shifted was not dramatic. It was a Tuesday. Eli had come home from a grocery run to find Noah sitting on the apartment floor in front of the couch, his back against the cushions, his right leg stretched out, and a look on his face that was part frustration and part something that had given up on hiding itself. What happened? Eli set the bags down immediately. I fell, Noah said. He said it flatly, quickly, like getting it over with. Reaching for something on the low shelf, the crutch slipped. I went down. I'm fine, nothing's broken. I just can't gestured vaguely at himself. I can't get back up without. The angle being wrong, and I've been sitting here for 20 minutes feeling sorry for myself. Crossed the room and crouched in front of him. Put your arm around my shoulder, he said. Noah, arm, shoulder, now. Noah looked at him for a moment. Then quietly, he put his arm around Eli's shoulder. Eli wrapped his own arm around Noah's waist, solid and warm, and with a slow, careful transfer of weight, they lifted him upright. For a moment, they were very close, closer than they had been before. Noah's arm still resting across Eli's shoulders. Eli's hand still at his waist. Noah's face angled down toward him. Eli's face, "You put." Noah didn't step back. Eli didn't let go. The silence lasted for 5 seconds, each one carrying more weight than the last. Then Noah said, very quietly, "Eli." "I know," Eli said. "I don't." Noah stopped. "I don't know what this is. I know that too." "I'm not exactly," he exhaled. "I'm not at my best right now. I'm aware of what I look like. What I am right now? Dependent and stop," Eli said softly. "Don't do that." "Don't do what?" "Preemptively apologize for existing." He met Noah's eyes directly. "You are not lesser because you needed help off the floor, and I am not here out of pity. I want you to know that." Noah looked at him for a long, searching moment. His arm had not moved from Eli's shoulder. "Oh, what are you here out of?" he asked. Eli's voice was steady, even as his heart was not. "Something I should probably keep to myself for a while longer." Noah's lips pressed together, not a frown. "Something complicated and tender." He straightened slowly, and Eli released his waist, and the distance returned. But something had been said in the space of that closeness that words had only gestured at. "Dinner." Eli said, "Yeah," Noah said, a little rough. "Dinner." May came in warm and gold. Noah Callahan put down his crutch. It wasn't a permanent or sudden thing. The doctors cautioned against that. And he still used it on the stairs and on long outings. But the morning Eli arrived to find Noah standing in the kitchen. Weight balanced on both feet, pouring coffee without support. Something tightened in his throat that he had to look away to manage. "Good morning," Noah said, sliding a mug across the counter without turning around. "Good morning," Eli said. He watched Noah's shoulders, the way they were less rigid now. The way the set of them carried something lighter. 6 weeks ago, those shoulders had been a wall. Now, they were just shoulders. Recovery was like that. It was invisible until suddenly it was. They started going out. This was also incremental. First it was just the PT appointments, which Eli still drove. Then Noah asked casually one morning if Eli would want to come along to the farmer's market on Saturday. He needed to pick up a few things, and the uneven cobblestones were still tricky. They spent 2 hours there, eating warm crepes from a food stall, arguing pleasantly about whether peaches or nectarines were superior. Eli, nectarines. Noah, peaches, and he was wrong. Picking up Lebanese spices that Noah held up to his nose with closed eyes and a small private expression that Eli did not look away from quickly enough. On the walk back to the car, their hands brushed twice. The second time, neither of them moved away. "I want to tell you something," Noah said when they reached the car. Eli waited. "I hated needing help," Noah said, looking at the pavement. "When I was in the hospital, and when I first came home, I hated every single moment of it. I had built my entire life around being capable, self-sufficient, strong. Cycling wasn't just a sport for me, it was proof that I was in control, that I didn't need." He paused. "I grew up in a house where needing something was a weakness, and then suddenly I needed everything and I couldn't." He stopped. Eli waited. "The first morning you came," Noah said, "I was so prepared to be condescending to you, to keep you at arm's length and get through the months without ever letting anyone actually in. And then you." He glanced over at Eli, brief and unguarded. "You just were. You were just there. You didn't perform. You didn't push. You made cumin lentil soup, and you fixed the curtain rod, and you drank your coffee without needing me to entertain you. And I didn't know what to do with that." Eli leaned against the car. "What did you do with it?" "I kept waiting for the angle I didn't know how to defend against. And then I stopped waiting and just let it happen." The afternoon sun was warm on the back of Eli's neck. Somewhere nearby, a child was laughing. "Noah," Eli said. "I know," Noah said. "You said that to me once. That you knew. You said it first. I did. They looked at each other in the simple afternoon light. Two men leaning against a car in a farmer's market parking lot. Both of them perfectly aware of what was happening and taking their time with it anyway. There was something luxurious about not rushing, about allowing something to be what it was without forcing it to become official before it was ready. Can I ask you something? Eli said. You always ask permission first, Noah said. I like that about you. Eli's chest did something helpless. When this is over, when you don't need a caretaker anymore, what do you want? Noah didn't hesitate. You, he said, quiet and certain. If that's still possible? Eli looked at him for a long moment. I've been wanting that since week 3, he said. I've been very professional about it. Noah laughed, the real laugh. Low and quick and surprised, and the sound of it was so warm and so rare that Eli felt it like sunlight. Very professional, Noah agreed. They took it slowly. Because that was who they both were. There was no single night of declaration. Instead, there was the evening Noah's hand found Eli's on the couch and stayed there. The morning Noah leaned in the doorframe of Eli's room and said, "Breakfast is ready," with a look on his face that had nothing to do with breakfast. The first time Noah said we without thinking about it were running low on coffee, and then caught himself and looked at Eli, half uncertain. We is okay, Eli said. Yeah, Noah said. More than okay. The real moment, the one that settled everything, came on a Saturday afternoon when Noah asked if Eli wanted to drive north. How far north? Eli asked. About 2 hours, Noah said. There's something I want to show you. They parked at a county park trailhead. And Noah pulled a folded sheet from the back seat of blueprint. Smaller scale, the kind you'd print to carry, not to present. This way, he said. The trail wound through pines and along a river. The sound of water always present, always cool. Noah walked steadily now, only a slight, careful attention to his step on the uneven ground. Eli walked beside him. They heard it before they saw it, the slight change in the air, the sense of open space. The way sound moved differently when there was suddenly sky below as well as above. And then they came through the trees, and there it was. The bridge. It was more beautiful in person than it had been on paper. The arc of it crossed a narrow river gorge, graceful and certain, the tension cables catching the afternoon light. At each end, the carved stone, the root-like motif he had noticed on the blueprint, rose from the ground the way trees rise. Inevitable and unhurried. It looked like it had always been there. Eli stood at the edge of it and felt something move through him that was not quite awe, and not quite grief, and not quite joy, but a mixture of all three that only arrives in the presence of something that is genuinely, quietly beautiful. You built this, he said.
My firm did.
I designed it. Noah was beside him, looking out over the gorge. Before the accident, this was the last project I completed before everything. He stopped. Let the pause carry what it needed to. I've never come to see it in person. I didn't want to for a while. Didn't know how I'd feel? How do you feel? Eli asked. Noah was quiet for a moment. Then, like some things survive what happens to you. Like the thing you built when you were whole is still here, and it doesn't know you were broken, and it's still doing its work. Eli turned to look at him. Noah was looking at the bridge, and the light was in his face, and he looked for the first time since Eli had known him fully at rest. Like something he had been carrying for a long time had been set down. Walk across with me? Noah said. Yes, Eli said. They walked out onto the bridge together. Below them, through the grating, the river ran silver and cold and constant. Above them, the cables hummed with a low tension that was also a kind of music. Halfway across, Noah stopped. He turned to face Eli. I want to say something, he said. And I'm going to say it plainly, because I've spent enough of my life being indirect about things. Eli waited. I love you, Noah said. I didn't plan for it. I resisted it probably longer than was reasonable. But it's true, and I'd rather have said it plainly than let it be one more thing I was careful about. Eli felt the words settle into him, not like a surprise. but like the confirmation of something he had been holding like a question for months, and now had its answer. "Noah," he said. "You can take time," Noah said, steady. "I'm not going anywhere." Eli shook his head. "I don't need time." He took a single step forward. The distance between them was so small, and said, quietly and without any performance at all, "I love you too. I've been trying very, very hard not to, and it didn't work at all." Noah's expression broke open. Not dramatically, nothing with Noah was dramatic. Ever, but in the particular way that guarded people look when they finally allow themselves to believe something they wanted was also true. He reached up and touched it. Eli's jaw, a question in it, and a gentleness that Eli hadn't expected from those precise engineer's hands. Eli leaned into his palm, and there, in the middle of a bridge that had survived a winter and its builder's worst year, with a river running below them and pines standing witness on either bank, Noah Callahan kissed Eli Vasquez slowly, surely, like something that had been designed this way. It was finally in its place. Noah went back to cycling in September. Not racing, not yet, maybe not ever again. And he'd made his peace with that somewhere between the farmer's market and the bridge, and the long, warm evenings that followed. But riding. Early mornings, the roads quiet, the light just arriving, his legs finding the rhythm again. Sometimes Eli ran alongside him for the first mile before peeling off to let him go. On one of those mornings, stopped at a corner, breathing hard, watching Noah ride away into the golden pink early air. Eli got a call from the social work department at the university. They had a part-time practicum opening. Would he be interested in finishing his degree? He stood on the sidewalk in the morning cool, watching the road where Noah had disappeared. He called back immediately. "Yes," he said. "Yes, I would." When Noah returned an hour later, flushed and alive-looking, and still catching his breath, Eli told him. Noah looked at him for a long moment. Then he smiled the full smile, the one Eli had been collecting since month 3 like something rare and worth keeping. "Good," Noah said. "It was always going to be." "What was?" "You," Noah said. "Finding your way back?" Eli looked at him. At this man who built bridges and made room and learned, slowly and bravely, to let himself be loved. "I think you might be right."